Welcome to the Layer by Layer Poetic Features for Psalm 24, which we remember by the phrase, Meeting the King. Our goal is to reveal the distinctive beauty and power of the original text of Psalm 24. So this video can be the next best thing to knowing Hebrew yourself. We will discuss 3 poetic features from Psalm 24. These 3 poetic features are called Lift Up, A Double Approach, and Who is He again? We'll start with the first feature, Lift Up. The Hebrew root for the word meaning lift up, raise, or carry is used 6 times in Psalm 24. It can refer to a physical action, as in lifting up heads. It can also refer to lifting up or receiving blessing. And, in the phrase lifting up one's soul, it means to want or desire something. Other words are used to describe the earth upon the sea, and people going up the Lord's mountain. All of these words point in the same direction. They tell us that the people need to focus on what is above, ultimately to the highest place, where the Lord of hosts, meaning simultaneously heavenly armies and the heavenly bodies of the sun, moon, and stars, lives. In Hebrew and in many other languages, the idea or concept of height is associated with power. This type of comparison is called a conceptual metaphor. This is why Mount Zion is spoken of as high, not because it is physically high, but because it has honor and power, since it is the mountain the Lord chose as his own. In Psalm 24, twice in verse 2, we have the preposition upon, and in verse 3, we have the verbs go up and stand. In verses 4 to 9, we have the same root, nasa, used 6 times in different stems and conjugations. It has several meanings. It means desiring something, literally, to lift up your soul to something, in verse 4, taking up, as in receiving, in verse 5, and lifting up in verses 7 and 9. Finally, in verse 10, there is the mention of the Lord of armies, or hosts. The word hosts is often used to speak of the stars, or heavenly armies, which are in the highest place. In nearly every verse of the psalm, there is mention of height, or something located above something else. This may reflect a special procession that happened when the Ark of the Covenant entered into Jerusalem. People would sing these words while they brought the Ark up to Jerusalem. As the company went up, they would sing about the Lord who founded the earth upon the sea and upon the ocean. The sea and ocean were always reminders of the forces of chaos, which were powerless against the Lord. They would sing of ascending to the Lord's holy place, which was accessible only to those he would permit to enter into his presence. Then the people would sing about those who had not lifted up their souls, those who had not delighted in or been happy with falsehood or false gods. Instead, they would lift up or receive blessing from the Lord. Those who refused to lift up or desire wickedness would instead lift up or receive blessing and privilege. Throughout the psalm, we see the poetic image of the Lord who would arrive from above to be enthroned. And to see him, everyone would need to look up, to lift up their heads. This is confirmed in verses 7 to 10. Here, we see that the entering king is not simply a human riding up the path, but he is a glorious king, even the Lord of armies, in verse 10. The poetic plea or request to the readers of the psalm is that instead of lifting up their souls to deceit, that is, desiring idols, they should follow the example of the gates and doorways of Zion. They should lift up their gaze, that is, raise their eyes, and look at the true king in proper worship, and open every part of themselves to welcome the king as he arrives. Now we turn to the second feature, a double approach. Hebrew poetry is known for parallelism, which means that thoughts are repeated in regular patterns. Psalm 24 has many parallel pairs, which occur at multiple poetic levels. The regular patterns show two sides moving forward alongside each other, two sides of a reciprocal approach. The human king and his people are moving toward the Lord, and the Lord is moving toward his people. Some of the pairs in Psalm 24 are individual noun phrases. For example, in verse 1, the phrase, "the earth and its fullness," matches the world and the inhabitants in it. In verse 4, the phrase, "clean hands," matches a pure heart. In verse 6, the phrase, "those seeking him," matches those who seek your face. Full clauses line up in verses 2, 3, and 4. For example, the clause, "he has founded it upon the sea," is similar to, "he keeps it established upon the ocean." Even full strophes are paired. Verses 7 to 8 form one strophe, or group of poetic lines, and verses 9 to 10 form another strophe. The two questions asking, "Who may go up?" and "Who may stand?" in verse 3 are matched by the two questions, "Who is this glorious king?" in verses 8 and 10. Although the questions of verses 8 and 10 could also be considered a pair, within their own strophes, they are actually unpaired, as the only question within each strophe. This means they actually break the pattern in their respective verses. Besides these two questions, the only full lines that are not part of this pattern of pairs are verses 7c, 9c, and the final clause of verse 10. Although parallelism is common in Hebrew poetry, the way it is used in Psalm 24 is different from the typical way it is used. Instead of presenting the same idea from slightly different perspectives, as it often does, here in Psalm 24, the parallelism represents the two opposite sides of a reciprocal approach. The meaning of the poem separates the approach of the human king and his people in verses 3 to 6, and the approach of the glorious king in verses 7 to 10. The many pairs are like a poetic echo throughout the entire poem, with hints of this reciprocal approach in nearly every verse. The pattern begins to change in verse 8, resumes in verse 9, but comes to a stop in verse 10. In verse 10, the two sides are no longer approaching with equal weight to each side. In this climax, the glorious king enters as the Lord of armies. The Lord permits and even requires that his people come up to him, but they do not determine his value or importance. In the final scene, he stands alone as the Lord of armies, the glorious king, based entirely on his own merits. He does not need his people in order to be recognized as glorious, as became so clear in the stories about the ark's journey through the Philistine cities. The poetic picture is the picture of a steady approach between the two participants. God and his people keep getting closer to each other. The first climax of the approach is at the gates, where we see doubles within doubles in verses 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Then it gets even stronger when the similar doubles are replaced by exact repetition, as seen in the phrase, "so that the glorious king might enter." This king is later called the Lord of armies. This is a psalm about approaching the Lord, but the act of approaching becomes less important as the psalm focuses more and more on the identity of the one approached. The ones approaching, as in the human ones approaching, become unimportant, and the glorious king approached becomes the only one important. We now turn to our third and last poetic feature. Who is he again? Hebrew does not often use rhyme, But every line of the first strophe ends with the same syllable, ah, as well as the last line of every strophe thereafter. This causes every strophe to end with a similar sound as the first one. The questions, "Who is this glorious king?" use wording that also refers back to that first strophe. These questions identify the king entering into Jerusalem as the same Lord who created the earth and founded it upon the seas. The end rhyme of all 4 lines of the first strophe is consistently the sound ah. The last syllable of the line is also stressed everywhere but in verse 2b. This pattern suddenly stops in verse 3, but it starts again and can be seen in the last line of each strophe throughout the rest of the psalm, namely le mirma in verse 4, Selah in verse 6, milchama in verse 8, and Selah again in verse 10. This kind of poetic echo with the repeated sound establishes a connection between the first strophe, introducing the Lord as creator and sustainer, and the rest of the psalm. The 2 questions in verses 8 and 10, asking, "Who is this glorious king?" do not repeat each other exactly. Verse 8a asks the question as, "Who is this glorious king?" But both the question and answer in verse 10 insert the pronoun he, making it, "Who is he, this glorious king?" The answer contains that same pronoun, so that it could be paraphrased as, "The Lord of armies, he is the one who is the glorious king." The importance of the Lord's ownership and authority over creation becomes clearer as we look more closely at the question, "Who is this glorious king?" in verse 8. It talks about a mighty one and a battle warrior. The Israelites had wanted a king to go out to fight their battles for them. That was the role of a king in the ancient world. The greatest king was the one who established his authority and rule over all at creation. He was truly the most powerful one and the greatest battle warrior. In verse 10, all this is repeated with the additional pronoun he. This slows down the reader or listener further and causes us to think about this glorious king's identity as the Lord of armies. This is a term used for both the Lord of a mighty army, as well as Lord of the stars, as well as for describing the Lord's creative power itself. Poetically, the repeated pronouns in verses 2 and 10 make one more connection to show that the one entering Jerusalem, represented by his Ark of the Covenant, is the creator of the universe, including the stars, the Lord of both stars and armies. He is one worthy of the greatest respect. The Israelites did not treat him with respect before, when the men of Beth Shemesh and Uzzah lost their lives. This time, in Psalm 24, they are determined to recognize the Lord as Lord of stars and armies, the Creator, whose requirements they will respect and fulfill. Then he will enter their city as their glorious king, king over both Zion and all of creation. This has been the Poetic Features video for Psalm 24, with the 3 features, Lift Up, A Double Approach, and Who is he again? In the first, the psalm calls for people to lift up their gaze to the Lord and to no one else. In the second, the Lord approaches his king and people, but in the actual moment of encounter, the Lord himself is all that matters as the glorious king. The third feature ends with a similar climax. The Lord is not a minor God. He is the God who created the earth and remains Lord of stars and heavenly armies. All of these features focus the attention on approaching the Lord and acknowledging him for who he is, both creator and the one who continues to rule over both heaven and earth. In this Poetic Features video, we explored the natively Hebrew poetic nature of the psalm. Our overview video provides a coherent interpretation of the psalm, and our exegetical issues video discusses other scholarly interpretations. All these videos are offered free of charge. Please visit us at psalms.cdbr.org to learn more. Thank you.